buffer time? What is buffer time? Is what buffer time?
Hey, Buffer Timers, we're back, and we've got a crazy amount of stuff that has dropped on us this week. So my buddy Scott from the channel Opinions No One Cares About, even though we all care about them, Scott, is here with me. Before we get into anything else, we'll say hi. And so, Scott, what have you got in the pipeline for your channel? What are you working on right now?
As it happens, I'm working on what will probably be my longest video to date. It is Star Trek based. It's almost entirely about Voyager. Unfortunately, real life calls, and I have another week of overtime scheduled. So having the time to get it all together is going to be a challenge, especially with the whole thing where Paramount Plus decides not to work on my TV.
Yeah, that could be a problem. And yeah, sorry about the work.
A little bit, yeah.
Hey, if you're getting the hours, that's not bad most of the time. Anyway,
and you guys in the group are all going to get credit because you've been helping me with all the stuff about Voyager all the way through.
Oh, well, thanks. So, as far as my channel, I'm putting out my longest ranking video tomorrow. It's taken me way longer than I've wanted it to. I should have it out by the normal 9 a.m. I've got a
review. Finally hit the top 100, right?
Yep, we're starting with number 99 tomorrow.
Right.
It has been one hell of a long road getting from somewhere back there to where we are now.
Right. I forget where you asked the question, but I was thinking that even though it would be just so much work that, yeah, you should be adding in like the newer episodes, especially the animated stuff.
I'm definitely going to add all the newer stuff. But yeah, I want to ask everybody out there, comment below or in the live chat. Do you guys think I should add lower decks to my rankings when I finish it and I go back to get all the newer stuff in there? Because when I started this, it was all live action, because what little animated stuff we had, let's be honest, most of the TAS isn't great. There's a couple of wonderful episodes and a bunch of mediocre stuff. Anyway, yeah, I'd like to really hear what people think, whether it's too different, which was what I was thinking at first, of a show to add to the rankings with the rest of Trek. But yeah. So let's move on to one of our many topics from this week. And we'll start with Star Trek Day.
Very true.
The thing every year where we've got where it's the anniversary of TOS's debut on September 8th. And this year, I was glad that they cut it down from the 2+ hour format we got last year and that freaking DJ.
Very true.
However, even a 22-minute video, and I realize we're in the middle of a writer's strike and the actor strike, but wow, Paramount doesn't seem to know how to put promotion out, in my opinion.
No, not really. I mean, it didn't seem like they teased a lot of stuff that was upcoming. We know that there's a new season of Disco next year. Get in. Love your stuff, man. And hopefully, Lord Willing and Creek Don't Rise will be another season of Strange New Worlds.
That's confirmed.
Right. Oh, well, good. Thank goodness. But I think, everybody pretty much noticed the space whale and the Gormagander in the room, if you will, was the lack of any mention of Prodigy.
Yeah, where are we going from here with that? Because, I mean, they put out a teaser and then well, it still doesn't exist on the platform, but here you go, I guess.
Right.
And we got teased with the very short treks, which, well, we'll get to the first one here in a little bit. I think it's a fun concept. I can't wait to see where it goes. and we got the confirmation of, oh, hello, Dell! Woohoo!
Oh, hold on. Let me
People are here.
shut you off in the background here. There we go. Hi.
Hi.
Hey,
I'm not using my fancy microphone. Do I sound okay?
You sound
sound
just
great.
fine,
Excellent.
actually.
I was not planned at all for this. I just saw that you went live and went, hey, I'm not doing anything.
Yay!
more people like that.
So we're talking Star Trek Day right now. Did you see the 22-minute thing? I'm not even sure you can call it a promo.
No, it was a commercial because it was about that long.
Yep.
And it wasn't even a good commercial. I don't think anyone who watched that went, I can't wait to watch more Star Trek on Paramount Plus. Like, it just didn't sell it to me. I don't know.
No. I mean, and it's 22 minutes, and we need like promo stuff, and the first like 6 minutes is, and this was fun, but like really just
more or less.
Tawny Newsome and Eugene Cordero commenting on Star Trek. I mean, that's what we do here for just because we're bored.
Damn it.
I mean, I could see where they were going with, let's us show you some of the faces behind the animation. And I think they were trying to do that without being like, hey, look at the faces beyond our animation. But at the same time, they didn't necessarily flick something on the screen that said, like, the voice of Mariner. You know?
Right.
So it was a little bit more for someone who doesn't know the show to connect their brains to.
Right.
Yeah, what I've been thinking lately is we need a few more, I hate saying this, being my age, but a few more younger people to be into Star Trek, like to get out to the youth. And yeah, if they're going to do that with, the start of an animated show, fine, but this one isn't really an animated show that's geared for kids, and we know what happened to the one that is. But yeah, I feel like we need more people like Gannon. I don't know if he's still here. Like I said, I watch his videos. He does some good work. If we had more of the youth, as I apparently have to say, getting into Star Trek and then getting into the classic Star Trek so they know where we came from and where we're going, be a lot better for the franchise overall.
I think there's a guy on Trek Central who does a lot of like the episode reviews. He looks really young, so I'm not offending you if you're out there. Like, I'm bringing you up as part of the young Star Trek fans because you look real young.
I think he is quite a bit younger than
I mean,
of us anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, dude, is that one out? I haven't seen the one with Neelix yet.
No. We've only got that one. And you know what? Let's just segue into that because there's not that much to talk about from the rest of Star Trek Day. We got as I put up for a picture a second
well,
ago.
Before we move on from
disco
Star Trek
clips.
Days, before we move on from Star Trek Day video, can we mention the absence of Prodigy now, or are we not talking about that yet?
We just did before you came on, but please do add your 2 cents.
Just barely.
So,
Please.
Here's my thought. Star Trek, the animated series, is not currently in production. If we use that as a way to communicate about Star Trek and animation, then there is absolutely no reason except for PR to not mention Prodigy, not show a single slide of Prodigy, not talk about the fact that they also had a computer animated show that wasn't all done in the style of hand drawing. And there's just so much to mention about the show that even though, yes, you're probably going to piss off as many people by showing Prodigy without mentioning the fact that it's, gone forever unless you own a Blu-ray player, or at least forever for now. That they could have at least talked about what was good about it. Especially if they want it. Yeah. They might want to try starting to sell it, if you get my drift. That's what I felt about the lack of Prodigy in Star Trek Day.
Yeah. And the best part is, it lives up to the hype. I mean, I enjoyed that show so much, even knowing it's clearly geared for, my kids. Right. I've mentioned a lot of Star Trek kills I would die on lately, and one of them is that Dal-Rl is one of the best characters in Trek.
I don't know if they go that far, but he's good. I
feel
I'm
like
miss a
maybe
win if she doesn't come back.
I feel like Rock Talk is also like the kind of Star Trek character we don't have enough of. Because
I'm with
in a
you.
way she's young, but in a way she's not. So we get sort of that Helia type energy. Other people, aliens who have been around for a really long time, whose names are not coming to mind, but Rock Talk skews younger. But at the so
Right.
we get to see a lot of the wonder of the Star Trek universe through her. Like Dal's too busy trying to be cool. Murph doesn't really understand what's going on 100%, or he does, and we don't know. Like everyone else has this sort of experienced view of the universe where you get the sense that Rock Talk is learning everything from the ground up, which would be a great metaphor for a Star Trek show about bringing kids who don't understand the entire Star Trek universe in. Here, we made a character just like you.
It almost seemed for a minute there like they were trying to go with lines of cars, like, oh, you buy a Saturn as your first car when you're like 16, and then you get into the the Chevrolet, and then
Honda Civic,
and then by the time you're like in your 60s, you buy the Cadillac. It seemed like they were going with like this was for the kids, and then Academy will probably be for like the teenage, early 20s audience. I'm guessing. We'll see. And that was at least one nice thing that we got as a touch point in this Star Trek Day. We got confirmation that Academy's still in the pipeline. Section 31, the mini movies, still in the pipeline. Great.
Michelle Yeoh has been public about the fact that she's looking forward to making Section 31, and it's almost for her like a passion project rather than a paycheck.
So before we move on from the Star Trek Day stuff, I guess specifically, Del, would you like to comment on this stuff? My wife loved this.
So if for the millions of people who don't know who she is, that is Jackie Cox in the blue. She is a drag queen from New York City who competed on Drag Race season 12. She was in it was a very complicated season, but let's say she did really, really well. In some ways, you could argue she was in the top 4. But one of the things that she's very well known for is taking the drag and a geek community and kind of getting them to commingle a little bit. So a lot of the numbers she do in gay nightclubs are geeky. And then when she goes to like conventions, she does more traditional drag, but feeds her geek into it. So I was like, I fell on the floor when I saw that they had gotten Jackie Cox for this. I had not seen one like hint or ruining about it. She is an incredibly engaging on the street drag queen. Like she can carry on a conversation with just about anybody, even if their response is like, go to hell, you sinner. She can roll with that. And so I loved her using the current approachability of drag to go out and talk about Star Trek. And for people, her and I'm sure other people, to put that together is that right now drag queens are like flashlights. Like everyone wants one or wants to be near one. And so putting one in basically what I called this when I saw this was a Neelix's version of a medical uniform. Because his always had the swirls on it.
Yeah.
Like from Tubix. Yeah. And so the idea being that she's wearing Neelix's medical uniform. But but she still even did the uniform in drag. Like her delta is a little bit too big. And she made the sleeves a little shorter because that's what you do when your hands look big. And put the medical ring up here. But she went out of her way to kind of not just mix the topics, but also kind of bring what she was doing. Like even just the hairstyle. The only thing I wish she had done different was to do that weaved pattern. I think it was Yeoman Rand, where she had like a checkerboard. Yeah, but she had a checkerboard in the top. That was the only thing I was like, if you're going to do a hairstyle like that, you might as well go all the way and just weave yourself like a piece of wig and slap it on front. But it was also just good to see how she could approach people who know nothing about Star Trek and still engage with them in a way that got them on this 22-minute special.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I love that they got someone. I'm sure she was also partially hired because she's local to New York City, but So she's originally from Iran, and a lot of her drag also has to do with being an Iranian American. So the other part of it that I liked was they found someone who has a reputation for speaking across race. And so the idea of putting her in a New York City park in a costume and in drag, knowing that she can have those conversations if they come up as well, because there are some people who have commentary about race and drag. And I wouldn't be surprised if that didn't come up at all when she was out there. But the fact that she did Katie's firework in a hijab and a full robe. That was one of her like biggest performances she did in her season. And the idea that she can speak that way and have the talent and the history of weaving her geek into it made her one of the best choices I could think of. There's only one other drag. Well, no, that's not true. 2 other drag queens I would have put in that situation. One used to go by the name Fifi O'Hara, but she now uses the name Jeremy Carey, and they do extreme cosplay. Like they took all of their drag stuff and now they do like cosplay on Instagram. And the other person would be Dax ! I don't like their name very much, but they are like, that's their identity, is I am the nerdy, like superhero drag queen. Those are the only 2 of the hundreds of girls that have been on Drag Race and have that recognizability, that word that exists, that they could have asked. So as someone who's both a huge like drag race nerd and a huge Star Trek nerd, I probably have forgotten most of what she said because I was just on my floor, like rolling around and screaming the whole time. But it was awesome.
Nice. All right, well, we got a lot to talk about, so let's move on to the TAS Ultra Shorts that got teased, and we got the first one with. Is it supposed to be Kirk, or is it just some random person in the chair? I can't tell.
It seems like it's Kirk, even though he's voiced by Pete Holmes, who is an incredibly funny comedian. So it's obviously we're trying to play, this whole thing for comedy.
Obviously, with the underwear
I was
head
thinking, I will admit straight up, and I apologize beforehand, but when I realized it wasn't him, I'm thinking Paul Wesley couldn't hang with the comedy. Like, why would they not use Paul Wesley in that role? Especially since they used Ethan Peck for Spock.
Yeah.
Like, it must have been that they sat down with Paul Wesley and he couldn't hang, so they were like, we got to find a comedian.
So, something that me and Nathan from N Squared were talking about in our Discord, this almost felt like, and it's not 100% there, but it's almost like right-wing Lower Decks. And it was like, you're trying to justify your speech. I thought it was kind of weird for Star Trek. Anybody else?
It was hard because I could see they were trying to go for like a badunk ching.
Yeah, right.
And so I was trying to be on that ride while I was watching it, but then it turned a corner and I was just like, I can't. Like, I disconnected until the water came out of the console because that was funny. But like having panties in a twist person.
Oh.
I told you guys what I thought of the entire thing. It was like, ask a white man what he can't say and then make a comedic short out of it.
Yeah, that was kind of it. I didn't hate it. It had its moments. It was funny, but it was borderline weird for Star Trek. That's for sure. If this had been South Park or something else, I would not question it in the slightest.
Yeah, I wound up thinking after the fact, because I just took it at face value when I was first watching it, like, oh, this is funny. Oh, you can't say, oh, of course they're here. But after that, I thought of it more like, okay, so yes, we have these races of aliens that look like things from Earth, but that doesn't technically mean they identify as things from like these things from Earth. Then of course I remember Dr. Tana as a Cation pretty much acts exactly like an Earth cat. So it got I don't know. I also did wonder in this intro, did they put anything in there that
I was going to ask you guys because I don't know TOS
Not
as
that I can find.
well, but I looked and looked. I even went through the TAS opening to see if maybe there was a reference there that I couldn't find, but I didn't find anything.
No, I don't think so. All right, well, let's use that as a segue. That unless somebody, do you guys have anything else about the TAS shorts?
I really hope that the next ones, I mean, they can be as short since they're now calling them very short tricks, and that they're not canon. I'd like to see one that's a little longer that maybe explores like one of the TAS characters, like the Cation, like one that we don't know as well. That would be awesome, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. Because when I saw Skin a Cat, I thought this was going to be about Cations. So
right.
It was.
We did get what's her name, Maress?
Yeah.
So that was neat.
Yeah.
Well, let's use that as a segue then to move into weird characters that we have gotten this week. Because holy crap, piling on, we haven't gotten enough Star Trek.
Right.
Let's move to Tuvix. Let's just start. What did you guys think of the episode overall?
I loved it.
Yeah.
Like, Lower Decks is not my favorite show. And so I always approach a new season kind of like I'm watching this to keep up with everybody else. But this one I found hilarious. I couldn't stop laughing. I found a reference I'll talk to you later that no one else has brought up that I've seen so far, but I think there's a 10C reference in here.
Okay.
And maybe it's because I'm a big disco nerd, but I'll bring it up when we get to there. I'm just foreshadowing.
Rock on. Yeah, I've noticed Lower Decks is so hard to get all of the callbacks to. This first one, Trek Culture and I seem to have gotten all the same ones. But the second one, both me and them and What Did I Miss, we all got things that the others didn't. None of us got at all. It's so hard to catch all of the callbacks in the show. But it's
you know what?
fun
When
to just,
people
pause and try to find
people like you and Trek Culture miss one that I get, I feel like the smartest person in the world for a day and a half.
You should.
Like, I beat Sean Ferrick and I beat Justin Wing and I know everything and they know. Okay, wait, maybe it's just one.
I think they're even kind of a little bit self-aware of it. Like after when the holodeck character showed up, I mean, and Boimler's like, "These are Voyager's deepest cuts." Then you have to question, why is the clown on the holodeck?
Yeah, I know.
I love that they brought it up at least. Like, oh yeah, he's not a hologram.
No, he's not.
But it makes sense that for like the museum ship where they've got, they've even got animatronic freaking salamanders. So why not program the clown?
I loved the mini reference when Michael turns around and goes, "I miss my wife." Because Janeway deleted his wife.
Sure.
Janeway deleted his wife.
Exactly. It's kind of weird. He's self-aware that his
like random little line out of nowhere that like most people would not pick up on as being weird. But I was like, your wife doesn't wait. Your wife did it. Wait, what?
And it smacked just a tiny bit of convenience, like the whole Tuvix setup, just because one petal of that orchid happened to find its way to the transporter.
Forrest Gump its way onto the transporter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was super happy about Dr. Chaotica. I mean, if there's anything I love the most about Voyager, it's Captain Proton in those episodes. Don't get me started on Bride of Chaotica, which is one of my favorite Trek episodes.
Now that's where I hope we get one of these ultra shorts. That would be the perfect place for that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, when I saw him, I was like a little kid going, "Yay!"
So Scott, you had a question here. Is every season going to have an episode that specifically references a certain classic series?
Yes, because this is, after all, a huge love letter to Voyager from beginning to end. Last season, they literally went to DS9. Season before that was, Cation, His Eyes Open, which is absolutely my favorite episode because it's a big love letter to TNG. I haven't entirely been racking my brain to remember if there was one that was all about TOS in the first season, but I'm sure if I thought about it long enough, I'd get to it.
My brain says that you're right, but my head can't bring up what it is.
Yeah.
But so basically, what you're saying is that next season we should see an Enterprise NX-01 kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because it seems to be going in order.
Bring on the Zindi.
The Zindi, the augmented Klingons, the Suliban.
Oh, they have to hit on the flat-headed Klingons. If they're going to bring in Enterprise, they have to hit on the flat-headed Klingons.
Like, wait
Maybe
a minute,
it's an expansion
Klingons come out?
pack for the Mechlids and what was the other word? Their version of Dungeons and
Batleths
Dragons.
and Batox. Or
Yes.
Batleths and Banox.
That's Banox.
That one. Okay, what else did we have for this episode? Most of what I've got questions for is for the next one. Oh, okay. So here's something, and I made a little graphic. Let's see if I can. Where did I put it? Do you think that Shabarnes looks like Kai Wynn? Is it just me?
You know, I didn't see
No,
it
it's
before
Damn.
because she's a Bajoran, the
Part Bajoran,
animated
anyway.
character.
Yeah, because Shax is Bajoran. Funny they couldn't get the spots though, because Burns is a Trill.
They got there's you can
Are there?
only just kind of see it on like the side of the face there.
Yeah, if you look
Getting
underneath
too close to my computer.
her ear, there's some
Okay,
discoloration that goes down her neck.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that's what spots are supposed to be.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I was thinking. I was looking too, like, yeah, there should be probably more, but it's not nothing.
Now, the interesting thing about this is actually with all the characters, it is again a little bit convenient that like these characters that are immediately created are apparently like immediately on board with Tillips and his plan, their plan, I guess. You nailed it in your review, by the way. They really, they really missed out an opportunity by not calling it Billana.
Billana. That was the first thing I thought. I was like, oh, it's gonna be Billana, and then it's like, no, this is kind of lame, but. So the other thing, what is your favorite mashed up character? In this
Oh, it was
episode?
Captain Freeman and the other character whose name I
Friggly
never remember.
Miggly Moo.
They were sexy. They were, and I'm not usually an animated.
You are not the
kind
first person I've heard say that.
but I think they were sexy. Yes.
Jesse Gender said that too.
Good call.
I don't see it.
Yeah, I could fuck with her.
It's better looking than Miggly Moo by himself.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, just getting like Carol's dreads into like bird feather form. It just really works.
It really does. I really like Schwalens. It's like, I want a fish.
Oh my god, yes.
And it is Whalens who would get stuck with the whale. Like,
Yeah.
he's just that kind of character.
Did anybody else know that his name was Steve Stevens before that?
No.
Yes.
I didn't know his first name was Steve. That's just it's
Yeah,
perfect
the
for him.
episode where Tendi has to do medical scans on everyone, his name's on the list.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah. I think I looked at it at that time. It's like, oh, that's original. Steve Stevens. Good job.
Perfect for a guy that like, he touches the warp core and fries himself twice in one day.
Yeah. It's the second time today.
Yeah, basically everything we have for questions coming forward is for the next episode. Do you guys have
Oh,
anything
wait,
else
wait.
you want to
Can I
talk
make
about this one? Yeah, please
I want to talk about the 10C.
do it.
I'm
Oh, yeah.
sure you're not preloaded with the image, so follow me. All right. When Tendi realizes that the buffed tricorder could locate the different personalities inside of the Great Ball of Tuvix, the way that the image that they put up, where like one character's like psyche, for lack of a better term, was illustrated as being over here and one was over here, but they were doing it by personality and emotion. I was like, they're showing us the 10C dust. Like they're basically separating this giant ball of characters by breaking them down into their minor little parts. and are able to say, like, this one is happiness. This one is, ransom.
Mm-hmm.
This one is sadness. This one is definitely Freeman. And the way they just spilled it, I was surprised that no other reviews I saw or read mentioned that it kind of reminded me of the Tensei.
You're not wrong. It does. That's a really good cut.
Yeah. Nice.
All right. Anything else we wanted to get into with this? Talin's awesome. I'm just gonna before we move on. Fucking
What?
Talin. We got Talin, and I'm
got
so
Talin.
happy.
And she's good.
But they destroyed the Klingon lower deckers. Or was that the next episode?
Gosh, yes.
No, that was this one. That was this one.
Yeah, that was this one. It's kind of interesting because Mariner's in this kind of new character arc where she's actually trying to be a good officer, and now we have the influx of Vulcan Mariner.
And for that matter, while we're here and we seem to have the most concurrent live viewers that we have since we started, let's throw out some theories. And I had put mine forward in my review, and I'm going to restate it here. What do you guys think is going on with this rogue ship that's going around destroying the Vulcan, or the Klingons and the Romulans so far, and obviously eventually is coming for the Cerritos?
I want it to be a time ship of some sort. It kind of reminds me of the time cops from Voyager, the ship that they flew around in. So I'm hoping maybe there's going to be a time travel episode where we're going to get Kirk and Freeman or something like that all together, where somehow killing the Klingons is the first step in this grand time plan. That's what I'm hoping for, because it sounds fun to me.
Yeah, I mean, we just had those old scientists. I mean, we can have them do a legitimate time travel episode now.
Someone also pointed out it looked like the ship of Max Headroom. You're not going to get that. I don't know the actor's name. He was playing an archaeologist who shows up on TNG. He played Max Headroom. That's how I know him. Yeah. That there was an episode he came on, he was an archaeologist, but he lied about everything. That ship looks like it too.
Yep.
So for me, it's
did his do that thing? Because I thought his was just like a shuttlecraft.
So for me, it's two things that tip me off to thinking, and before I flash it, it drains the power from these ships before it destroys them.
Yep.
And the ornamentation on it looks so similar to the little ball on this friggin' thing. I think it's the whale people coming back.
Which would explain why they put the whale people in the opener.
Right? Whoops.
I didn't even put those things together.
Right.
You were so smart.
I hope. I mean, we don't know. We don't know yet. Everybody's got a theory. A Trek
but I think
theory.
The uncanny is.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Toolwise.
Yeah, I mean, I just grabbed the lowest hanging fruit. I was like, oh, that's the Toolwise.
He's one of my oldest
more work for you
of stuff, and the first time I think he's been here in one of our Buffer Time chats. So cool. Thank you for your opinion.
Are you saying hi to everybody?
Hello. So my dog stays downstairs.
He insinuates himself and everything.
Yeah, Riker would be right here if he could.
Oh, your dog's name is Riker.
Yes, and actually that was not my decision, if you can believe it.
Interesting.
The dog before Bentley, we named Tosk.
I am Tosk.
Nice.
Because he was tossed, you know.
So is there anything else we wanted to talk about it from this first Lower Decks episode? Besides more clowns.
All I'm going to say about the mystery ship is that I, grabbed the lowest hanging fruit. I was like, oh, this is the Badgie, Agamus, Peanut Hamper team up. We're all know it's probably going to happen. Except it doesn't, I don't know how much sense that would make, because you'd think you would have heard something by now of them laying waste to the Daystrom Institute.
Definitely, I like your theory on that as far as Moopsie is going to end up with Agamus and Peanut Hamper. That would be a trio of awesome devilishness. So, as far as
Yes.
episode 2 this week, the one that I will never ever remember the title of, which has been brought up to me after the fact that
I
it is,
have no
I have
bones
no
and
bones, so I must flee.
yes, because I knew about Harlan Ellison, so I keep going back to I have no mouth, but it's I have no bones and I must flee.
I thought they were just going for like the world is hollow and I have touched the sky kind of long drawn out title. I didn't realize it was Harlan Ellison until somebody in the comments had posted to one of my reviews.
I only know that cover because I watch a geeky game show online, and one of them is they show book covers without the title, and that was the only one that round I knew.
Okay, cool.
Weirdness.
Gotta love this.
Oh gosh.
So, is this a redemption for how badly failed the Bechdel test is for Bev and Troy in pretty much every scene they ever have together, but in particular this one when they wear this?
Because isn't Beverly talking about how her toes curl in this in the original conversation?
Yes.
Talking about Odan, isn't she?
No, this one came from The Price. I thought there is a scene there too, but they're in the white like Klingon Mukbara robes for that one. But yeah, that's similar. But yeah, this one came from The Price, where Deanna is all like, you know, that's the one with the hair stuff.
Oh, right. I know. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we can't really say the P word anymore, unfortunately. Even when it's in context that has nothing to do with that word. Anyway, do you think that this redeems that in some way, shape, or form? Or is this just, well, that was funny?
Yeah, it works as a funny reference, but if it had been two female characters and they'd actually, passed the test, then that would be better.
I would see it one of two ways. Either what Scott just said, just put two female characters in there, but have them discuss like the warp core. Or if you're going to put two men in there to do like the whole leotard gag, then let them talk about like, do you think Boimler is hot? Or is that just me? Like something that matched the first conversation between Deanna and Troy, where they're talking about like girl things. Yeah. Have either these two characters talk about girl things, or have two female characters come on and talk about the warp core. That would be redemption to me.
That's fair. I like that warp core idea. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's about the most lower decks Trek thing you could get.
You're right.
So how do we feel about them moving out of the bunks? That was a sad moment.
That's legitimately a sad moment.
I'm really hoping they find some stupid reason why they have to go back, because a lot of the conversations that we get so far in this series is from them kicking around in their bunks. And even though Samantha and Boimler are roommates, we don't know what happened to Tendi and Mariner. So, like, we could be talking about 3 different sets of quarters now. It means that there's going to be, well, in a real world where things follow real consequences, there'd be less opportunity for them to just have these random conversations. And now they're going to have reasons to go see each other.
Right.
That could be good. That could be bad.
It'd also be really cool if one of these episodes concerned that whole thing that they were talking about in that scene right there, where apparently everybody switched bodies.
Yeah, right. I bet
Rutherford's like, we learned too much about each other that day.
I wonder if that's like a graphic novel or something. I just finished reading this weird one where like they create a Moriarty version of Dracula on the holodeck on purpose. They keep messing with the holodeck until they finally get it to do what they want, even though it's been programmed to not create a Moriarty again. And it gets weird, but it's also absolutely great.
See, I thought it was a nod to Boimler and Mariner doing the whole and that Pike thing that we don't talk about, to imply that Tendi and Samantha also had their own adventure that we haven't seen or heard about yet.
Oh,
yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, maybe we'll get like a flashback kind of thing at some point. That could be cool too.
Yeah.
All right. What else did we have for
But
the? Go ahead.
yeah, it would be cool. It would be kind of cool if they went back there. It's kind of like the focal point of the show. Really, you just got
It's like
Jensen's hanging out in lower decks, Fedorov
it's
walking
like
around with a
Cheers
towel on.
versus Frasier is the way I look at it. Like that Cheers was the main character of the show. Not
Right.
the people per se, but it was what the bar and what happens in it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think I'm having an emotional reaction about the bunks, is because it's like trying to do Cheers, but instead, like Diane goes over to Sam's house and they fight over what's on Netflix. Like, it's not the same. It doesn't set up the same interactions. It doesn't set up the same, like, all four of them coming together to solve a solution without actually trying to. Like, it's a lot of the things about that setting that makes me sad to see it go, but I'm happy to be surprised and wondered at what they do now that they have borders.
Yeah, I am curious where Tendi and Mariner end up. So let's talk
I don't know
about.
if they end up together, but I could see a lot of scenes where they're all just hanging out in one person or another's room.
So let's talk about the cutest tiny little elephant you ever done seen. What do you guys
The
think
evil
of
Pokemon of
Moopsie?
Star Trek.
I thought, I really believed within my whole heart that Murph was going to be the cutest character that Star Trek has ever produced. And this thing came on, and I was just like, I want to see Murph and Moopsie like interact in some way. Like, even if they do like an Animal Crossing short trek where they're both animals in the video game, that would be fine by me. Like, something that just emphasize how cute the two of them are. Yeah.
At least he's still the cutest lawful good character, whereas Moopsie's what, like chaotic evil?
Yeah, basically. Yeah. I can't tell if this thing is extremely smart because it just keeps finding its way in and through all kinds of stuff, or if it's just dumb as a bag of rocks and it's just getting lucky.
I think a little bit of it is instinct. Because I think of the scene, Moopsie's locked in the main control room. We can like see him jumping up and down in the window right after Mariner knocked Ransom's tooth out. He's like, oh, he wants bones, and he holds the bone up, his tooth up. Moopsie's like, his mouth goes wide. He's like trying to get that right there. Yes, like he can like sense the bone. He wants the bone. So I think a lot of it might be instinct.
Yeah, I think I did actually yell out, look, it's an attack tribble when Moopsie did that, because it reminded me of the attack tribble from Days Frustration. Anyway,
I want
sorry.
Moopsie to end up being a licensed thing in an actual Pokemon game where it's the extra one Pokemon in the 2 games that they release, and it just absolutely crushes Pikachu.
I thought the hashtag said Star Trek
Oopsie.
Overload. No. It was something. Never mind. I thought it said something else.
Okay.
Do you think that Lubbock will come back to haunt Rutherford?
Rutherford. And also Tendi. That was the whole thing, like this whole C. Is that the C plot? Would we call that the C plot?
Technically B,
Or
but
is
you
that
know, whatever.
you think that took
It's
more
not the
precedence
A
than
plot.
Boimler trying to find a room?
I think it has more to do with the. I think it has more to do with the actual show. So I think it's a B. But anyway.
Okay. It's just another one of those things. I hope that I don't keep saying this season that things like, smack of convenience. But it was like a scene that was put into this episode specifically because they didn't promote Rutherford the last time. And then it was like, oh, he could have been promoted any time for all that stuff he did. He just chose not to. So now we're just going to do it at random because you can do that. Even Bill was like, do that, apparently.
There's bits of this that I really like, and it's basically all Tendi. I mean, Tendi, like, she steps up and she throws her new lieutenant grade weight around and does some good stuff for Samanthan, but it just seems so convenient and so quick. I mean, he goes through the whole episode doing all this crazy stuff. And it's Tendi that gets him his promotion, which is, yeah. But also at the same time, then it's like, it's a growth moment for him because, oh, all I had to do was ask for what I want and stand up for myself. So
I legitimately thought Livik was like psychic or something, and he could like read Rutherford's mind and figure out what he was trying to improve so that he could do it better. And I mean, that could have kind of been the case. Who knows? I mean, we don't know what's going on with Livik yet.
I don't have any of the pictures of him with, kind of with Billups. Did anybody else learn some new words in this episode, like femtoseconds?
Is that what they said? Because
they must have gone over my head.
Femtosecond is a thing. That's like a very, very tiny. What's the word I'm looking for?
Tiny unit.
It's a scientific prefix. It's like time. When you're going down from like metric to like deci, centi, milli, they get smaller and smaller and smaller. Right. Femto's in there somewhere.
I had never heard that one before, but that was what Rutherford got the transporter cycle to be down by so many femtoseconds. And that was one of the jokes. And I was like, oh, well, learned a new word this week.
Is that calling all the way back to like Much Ado Without Boimler when he was trying to do that?
Maybe. That's a good theory. Yeah. So here's a question I had. Is Ransom a great commander or an idiot?
It honestly seems like he's slowly going from one to the other. Because, like, he's been, more of a meathead jock than a commander for 3 seasons now. But it's kind of like they're just deciding to work on his character arc. And, say it's like, he's a commander and the first officer, let's, have justification for how he rose so high. Because he is actually a decent officer.
I know these things are not connected in real life, but after seeing the Star Trek Day video and then this episode, I was like, oh, so they threw a bone to Jerry O'Connor and he threw a bone right back at them. Like they made Ransom into an actual...
And then Loopsy ate it.
I was going to say 3-dimensional character, but yeah. So he's not just the guy doing the push-ups, but but now that they're giving him a little bit more face time as Jerry O'Connell, like maybe that's part of it. I don't know, but it seemed really strange to me that right after I watched a video where instead of Will Wheaton, they had Jerry O'Connell in front. Now I know they were doing it for animation, but it seemed very convenient that all of a sudden Ransom is this now like actual character in earnest.
Well, it depends on when they did this promo.
Like I said, I don't think it was actually, but yeah.
Because people that are contracted with the animation side are not part of this. So they were probably still under contract and Paramount could actually say, okay, well, Jerry can do it, but Will Wheaton, who is, part of the regular Performing Actors Guild, can't do it. But I don't know. I don't know the specifics there. I just know Star Trek Day was wildly underwhelming as a promo piece. But it was nice to get just some things. We got some touch points. Wasn't nothing. So, is there anything else we wanted to touch on for the second episode of Lower Decks? I didn't have any more questions.
Really? I got the list right here. I mean, one I threw out, I actually did a poll on this on Twitter. It came out 50-50, which I thought was a little weird, but would you want to own a live Moopsie?
I would breed them.
No.
If I could train them from birth to do and to just be chaotic agents of chaos, I would breed them and sell them.
The last guinea pig we had was just a super annoying pet to have. So one that can drink your bones at any time just seems like even more reason to just no.
Just keeps you on your toes.
Right.
Did you see any more there, Scott? Yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah.
But, for this
like one. This is actually really good. the first quarters that Boimler was assigned to, had the that terrible glow from the warp nacelle. Like, why isn't the shielding or whatever it is Rutherford did like pre-programmed into that room, or rooms that are that close to the engine?
Yeah, I loved these bits. They were funny as heck, but there's so many impracticalities there that you're just like, what? Why would you put a bunk in between two holodecks? Why would you put a bunk that's so close to the warp nacelles that it fries your eyes?
Right. And exactly how close is it? I mean, look at this. I got the Stratos right here. You got, the whole saucer section, which I'm pretty sure is where the rooms are.
Right.
And it seems like there's a considerable distance between that and the red part of the nacelle.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that would be a huge problem. And if it was, why, if it took Rutherford seconds to fix, why it wasn't just standard operating procedure. But
right.
I think it was just to illustrate what it's like to be on the bottom rung of the upper class.
Yeah, that's it.
You get your own place, but it's going to be a one in a noisy neighborhood with the teenagers next door that party all night. But, the next house you'll buy will be more expensive, but it will be nicer.
You're absolutely right. It just doesn't make much sense.
It doesn't make any logic, but
within universe, but.
Right.
Yeah.
I remembered, sorry, when I read the Star Trek Overload, we had the picture of Moopsie on the screen, and I thought it said Star Trek Overlord. That's what happened earlier.
Moopsie, our Star Trek Overlord.
Yes.
So some stuff I missed in when I was watching Trek Culture's review, and they showed like all the things they found in the menagerie. I had missed that there's a little koala in there.
And I missed that Trek Culture brought up a koala because I watched it.
Yeah, there's a little koala. Maybe not like the great koala, but there's a koala somewhere in the menagerie. And
the great koala is still hanging out in the intro. So,
and I don't know how I missed the gigantic worm thing that ate Hogan in Basics and Voyager, but that's a thing too. Meanwhile, they missed the Glommer, and I got it. So. I got your number, Sean Ferrick.
We're coming for you.
Oh God, yeah.
Nice.
I would have.
Yes, that would have been incredible.
I would have to rent one of those steamers for my carpet because I would have just pissed like everywhere I was if that happened. Like, I was already losing it with, 8 other things that were happening in this video. But if then he pulled out the slider ending, I literally would probably pee myself on the floor.
And then I would have been the guy that's like, oh, wait, by the last season, he wasn't actually him anymore.
All right. So, anything else Star Trek related we want to touch on here?
You did have something about the Borg in there because
I did. Yeah, that was for the first episode. I kind of
back to a Borg cube.
Yeah, so the Borg are supposed to be dead at this point, or at least just barely hanging on by what we know. So they're headed towards the Borg cube in that first episode, Lower Decks. So what's going on there?
Yep.
I threw out the theory that maybe they're headed towards a dead cube and they're going to revive it and they're going to bring the Borg back. Robotic salamanders bring back the Borg.
Yeah,
or it could be the artifact. It just hasn't been discovered by the Romulans yet.
Is it in that time period?
Yeah, this is just before they would have discovered the artifact.
I'm always unsure with Lower Decks, when this is all happening.
This is about 8 years after Voyager gets home. The end of the game.
At this point, it's roughly 23. Wait,
it's just about 20 years before Voyager or before Picard. So that's where we are.
So we're right around, I think, 2381 or 82.
I think it's 83 or 84 because you get a year advances every season. So
right. But that line in Tuvix when the doctor's like, yeah, this happened back in Voyager in the 70s. I love that.
Yes. Yeah, it's been a heck of a week. Like, holy
yeah.
Star Trek content dump. I mean, that's why I had to name it this. This is like some of the most Trek stuff we've gotten in a single week. Some of it's been underwhelming. Some of it's been pretty great.
Can I
What do you
rewind
guys-
and say something I meant to say like
Yes, you
2
can.
hours ago? All right.
Jeez.
The thing that does make me excited about these these super short treks, is that they're doing it in the style of TAS.
Yes.
There is another artist on YouTube that I've been promoting for a while now, who does episodes from TNG and Voyager. He did Threshold in the style of TAS.
That was great.
So if you loved this, I will send Dustin the link and he'll get it out to you somehow. But there's a guy who does this stuff that is amazing. He uses the soundtrack from the episode and then just draws around it. And he just started doing it to amuse his wife. And then
Yeah,
it
I've
became
seen
a
them
thing
live.
where
I
people
love
on the internet were like, do Voyager. Do
Yeah.
Voyager. And he was like, okay. But yes, when I saw that, I thought of that guy. I'm really hoping he gets some side hustle out of this, because he's really good. So if you're enjoying the style of animation, but don't want to mine into 70s TAS, like I said, I will send link and it will get disseminated to the right people.
Yeah, I'll get it in there.
Right. The only
Yeah, I'm
thing,
looking
the
forward
other
to
thing we got here is, I guess Paramount is teaming up with Kid Cudi for Star Trek merch.
Who is this? I've never heard of this.
He's a rapper.
He's a rapper.
Okay. I figured, but
He did.
wasn't
There's
sure.
at least 2 songs I remember. He did Day and Night and Black and Yellow. And he had the part in Bill and Ted Face the Music, where he was like talking through time travel and the logistics of it with Bill and Ted's daughters. And like right before he leaves, they're like, "Bye, Kid Cudi." He's like, "Station."
Station. So what was your favorite thing that you learned or saw or enjoyed this week in Star Trek?
Well, I've been pushing for an Academy show. Oh, sorry, Del. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I mean, I've been pushing for an Academy show for I don't know how long. So knowing that that's still going to happen is cool. And Stevens was a whale.
Yeah, I'm going with Schwalens. Final answer.
I want to fish.
I'm going to embarrass the crap out of myself, but it's the true thing that I learned this week that it was the most important. I had no idea that Jerry O'Connell was married to Rebecca Romaine until I saw that short.
Really?
And like for half a second, it blew my mind. And then I'm like, I'm the only person who doesn't know this. I know I'm the only person who doesn't know this.
Yeah, they're the first officers of Trek.
I just didn't know they were married.
Mm-hmm.
I still call her Romaine Stamos if it tells you
That
like how old I am.
Okay, so before we get out of here, let's give these episodes a basic rank between 1 and 10. Let's start with the first one with 2 Vixed.
Make me last. I'm not prepared.
That's fine. I'm gonna go 7.5. First episodes of Lower Decks always they're pretty good. They're usually like just above middle of the road, and I think this one follows suit. It's a lot of fun, but there are some things that it feels like were just convenience for convenience and callbacks for the sake of callbacks, but I enjoyed it a lot. So yeah, 7.5. And I for my Lower Decks, when I do my other out of 10s for live action, I put it against the rest of live action. For Lower Decks, I'm only ranking it against itself. So 7.5 versus the rest of Lower Decks. Go ahead, Scott.
It was a little bit on the spot. I wasn't thinking of it, but I think, yeah, it's a pretty solid 7 for being a decent love letter to Voyager. It's nice to see the ensigns finally getting promoted after a few years, and just now I was thinking, oh my gosh, an entirely Voyager themed episode, and then we just saw ensigns get promoted. Harry Kim watching this episode and screaming. But anyway, All that was great. There was something I didn't like. What was it? I think it was the thing with Kayshawn, that how he's still primarily speaking Tamarian, even though, we know that there's a universal translator and he's capable of speaking Federation Standard, but they just keep throwing him Tamarian lines.
But I love that Ransom came back. Like, he clapped back with something. Yeah. No, he said, like, Tonga when the walls fell.
Ensign. And Kayshawn's like, oh, I pay attention.
I'm always a big, like, why are they doing this if they have a UT all the time? Like, someone will have a conversation and then turn around and say something in Klingon, like the other person has no idea, even though they're all wearing UT. Anyway, so, yeah, things like that always get stuck in my head. Oh, I have to come up with a number now. I've been trying to do math. 4 Lower Decks, which I have already stated the heresy that it is not my favorite Trek show. I would still give this a high number on my end, because I think anyone who has seen Voyager would find this episode funny on some level. Even if you don't know any Lower Deck lore, you would just see these funny characters interacting with all this Voyager lore. So in that case, I'd give it an 8. But like as a standalone, if I didn't know anything about Voyager and I was watching a Lower Decks episode, I'd probably give it a lot less. Because they didn't let the Lower Deckers be the plot. They were reacting to the plot.
Right. That's fair.
Did I give it a number? I said 8. I don't know. A lot less would be like a 5.5. Doing math in my head.
I think that averages to about 7 3/4 there.
Yep.
So, yep, pretty good. Could be better. No problems.
I'm looking forward to more, and I can say that in the early, like in the other premieres of Lower Decks, I did not feel that way. Whereas between these 2 episodes, I am looking forward to seeing more. So it may have changed my mind.
Right.
Well, that's good. I'm glad it lived up to something and got better for you. So our next one, I didn't like this one quite as much. I just thought it was really standard fare for Lower Decks. Not bad in any way, but I had to make up a dislike in my review this week, because it's like, well, I know this isn't the best episode of Lower Decks, but I don't have a huge dislike. I got to give it 1. I'll give it a 7 on this one, because it's just a little bit less than the one that we had before it for me. But Moopsie's freaking awesome. So 7.
I would give this episode a solid 8, and that is carried mostly on the A plot and the conversations between Mariner and Ransom. While it does seem a little weird that no other CO of hers was able to look past like what she does to get herself demoted, and like Ransom's the only one that figured that out. The fact that he did, and that they're actually kind of both growing as characters already at the beginning of the season, that works for me. And that is just enough to carry it past the B and C plots that have their moments, but are not that great to me.
That's fair.
This episode, you didn't give it a number yet. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I did. It's an 8.
Okay. This episode for me was a Star Trek episode. And that's what I liked about it, is that it wasn't as sticky and elbow jabbing as some other Lower Decks episode. And even though it was obviously referencing other Star Trek episodes, it let sort of the story be funny rather than have the story be like what it is. And then they go, hey, not funny. Let's tell 3 puns about that. Like, this actually had like a plot line where the characters were integral, and it felt sci-fi, and it felt even. And then the Moopsie thing, to me, in my heart of hearts, deep down inside, is my hope that that's going to be the new way to bring kids into the franchise now that that other part is over for now. Like maybe if they can actually market Moopsie alongside with Murph and actually get kids to be maybe Lower Decks is not the best one to get them interested in unless they're like a teenager. I guess I'm not a parent, so I don't know age limits.
My 12-year-old loves it.
Yeah, but like also the one thing that they can do better than any other Star Trek show is they can take a character like Moopsie and turn them into a real threat. Like if we actually had a live action version of that thing, like it would be a Tribble. It would just be this cute thing that people picked up and petted. You would never be able to write it down into, and then it eats everything. So that's why I like it, is that it gives sort of that Tribble-esque, where a lot of people who didn't watch TOS until they heard about the Tribbles, whether it was back in the 60s or last week. Like that's sometimes what the thing that brings people in. So every time I had a whole nother theory about Momo or about Moopsie, about being called Momo. That's a whole different side conversation. But that's what I liked about this. So for this, it being a real Star Trek episode, I'm going to give it a 7, which is pretty good for me. So.
Yeah. I think you just realized what Moopsie kind of is, though.
What you got?
Nibbler.
Right.
Like if we found out that they're super intelligent, I would not be surprised.
Looks like we're about a 7.25 average on that one. We think both of these are right in the 7s. Pretty darn good. Upper middle of the road Star Trek, as
Better than
Lower
average.
Decks has a tendency to do. It's better than a lot of the callbacks that the shows that it calls back to. That's for sure.
Yeah, right.
Michael Sullivan. That was why I know we're like almost done here, but why Michael Sullivan? Out of all of the things you could have done, and if you're gonna show me a Janeway hologram thing, I want to know what's on the 4th floor. We've been waiting far too long. Inquiring minds want to know. Do you guys have anything you want to throw in before we are done?
All in all, I'm glad that this week of Trek happened, but it didn't feel as special as I had hoped. And I think that goes above and beyond the lack of Prodigy and everything. I don't know. I was just like, after I watched the video, I was like, oh, that's okay. And then, I mean, I liked the episodes and they were fun, but like I would expect all of this happening in the same week would feel like when we got 2 episodes of Strange New Worlds together. And I was like, this is going to be the best thing. I didn't feel like any of that. I was just like, oh, I guess I can watch another episode of Lower Decks, or I could go watch Jerry O'Connell whine about being in a cartoon for half an hour. I don't know. But I'm glad that Lower Decks happened because it's the first time I was really excited to see a Lower Decks episode, and that I was actually really looking forward to it because the first title was Tuvix, so I knew where it was at least going to glance, if not go.
Yeah.
But I think Paramount Plus, if you're even in charge of Star Trek by next year, you can do better. All right? Oh. Wait, I think Dustin turned into Moopsie.
I have no idea what's happening. I did nothing.
You turned into Moopsie. Like I am not even lying.
No idea how that happens.
It's because I snapped my magic fingers, and then
you guys can still hear me, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. I guess my
Narsh has no idea how that happened.
So, I'm gonna leave it at that, and we're gonna call it a day. And we will probably be back next week sometime, probably Sunday again. And we're enjoying the Lower Decks either way. I hope you are. Thanks, Scott and Del, for coming and talking the Star Treks with us.
Of course.
If you guys have enjoyed your time here, please consider a like and subscribe below, and we'll see you next week. Until then, live long and prosper.